Hello, YouTube family. Tom, aka Patrick, from Patrick's Playbook, bringing you a video today. It's going to be a Billboard top 5 from the week January 31st, 1981. I say Billboard top 5, but obviously it is kind of an ode to Casey Kasem, and it was called Casey Kasem's American Top 40, as a lot of you know if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. So it's definitely an ode to that, to Casey's countdown. But I'm only doing 5 songs because I want to break down each of the 5 songs. I did a video last week for January 26th, 1980. It was my first video like this. People seem to like it. I had some really fun comments. And so we're going to continue that. And what we're going to do is every week we're going to jump forward a week and 1 year forward. And we're just going to keep going. So it'll just keep going until probably the channel stops. We're just going to keep going. It's going to be so much fun, I think. So, for example, next week will be February 6th, 1982. But this week is a really, really fun countdown. So, I can't wait to get into it. All right. If you're new to this channel, subscribe, like, leave a comment. I answer every comment. I love them all. Well, I mean, I love answering every comment because people take the time to comment, take the time out of your day. The least I can do is answer. So I leave no comment unanswered. And, you know, I like every kind of comment. I like critical comments. I like all of them. So thank you so much for helping me in this journey with this channel. I do Dollar Tree hauls as well. And without further ado, guys, let's begin. Okay, so I would like to, and a link to last week's countdown, it will be below if you're interested in watching that video, if you haven't yet and would like to. So here we go. So this is a really fun, oh boy, do I like this countdown. I love these 5 songs. These were difficult for me to rank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about each one of these 5 songs, 5 to 1. Then I'll recap the countdown, just tell you what they are in order, and then I'm going to give you my ranking of the 5 songs in order of how much I like them, 5 to 1. So this will be fun. So without further ado, let's begin. The number 5 song for January 31st, 1981 on the Billboard Top 100 chart was Every Woman in the World by Air Supply. Now this song peaked at number 5. So this was the height of its climb up the chart. Air Supply was a gigantic big band in the early 80s. They had a lot of hits. They got stuck at number 2 a lot. This song got stuck at number 5. And this song was not written by the band. It was written by a gentleman named Dominic Bugatti. So I found that interesting. I wasn't sure if Air Supply wrote a lot of their songs. They wrote some. I kind of did a little research. They wrote some, and they had some written for them. So they're kind of, about half and half probably. I would say more of their hits were actually written by other songwriters and not the band. But obviously they are a very well-liked, very popular band in their day. And actually they still tour. They still tour now. The 2 main gentlemen in Air Supply. So there you go. Number 5. Every Woman in the World by Air Supply. The number 4 song, before I go any further, the next 4 songs all reached number 1 at some point on the countdown. So this countdown is full of really, really gigantic hits. You don't see many top 5s where 4 of the 5 songs actually ended up at number 1 at some point. But the other 4 songs I'm about to mention all were number 1 hits. They're either on the way down from number 1 here or on the way up. Or obviously number 1 for this week is, of course, number 1. So the number 4 song for January 31st, 1981. Love this song. Oh my gosh. I Love a Rainy Night by Eddie Rabbitt. I love this song so much. I remember driving around as a kid and hearing this song on the car radio on our family trips, driving around. Great driving song. Nobody could deny that. Obviously, Eddie Rabbitt, a country music artist. He had several hits cross over into the pop chart. In the summer of 1980, he had Driving My Life Away, which went to number 3 on the Billboard Top 100 pop chart. And this song was his first pop #1. So I Love a Rainy Night did end up at #1 in actually February of 1981. And fun fact about that, when it reached #1, the following week, 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton reached #1. So you had, for the first time in history, 2 straight weeks where a country music artist and country music song kind of crossed over onto the Billboard Top 100. So I found that interesting in doing my research on these. And so yeah, #4, I Love a Rainy Night by Eddie Rabbitt. Oh, written by, this song was co-written equally by Eddie Rabbitt and by a songwriter named, love this name, Even Stevens. Even Stevens and Eddie Rabbitt co-wrote this song. So there you have it. #4, I Love a Rainy Night by Eddie Rabbitt. The #3 song for January 31st, 1981 was Celebration by Kool and the Gang. This song would go to #1, and it was co-written by the entire band. So equally written, it just says, written by Kool and the Gang. So this ended up being Kool and the Gang's only #1 song. They had a lot of hits, a lot of top 10 hits, a lot of top 40 hits, Cherish, Joanna. They had Kool and the Gang in a really long and successful career, but this was their only #1 on the actual Billboard Top 100 chart. But it is #3 this week, co-written by the band, Celebration. Love that song. Really, really good. It's kind of an anthem. It's played a lot now when sports teams win. It's played a lot on the radio even now. This song really had a long history of airplay, big time. So there you have it. So the #2 song for January 31st, 1981 was Just Like Starting Over by the legend John Lennon. The unfortunate circumstances of this song, not the song, but just, its release, of course, as I'm sure most of you know, John Lennon was murdered, on December 8th, 1980. This song from the album Double Fantasy was actually released while he was still alive in October and was already climbing up the charts. It was doing really well. Obviously then he's murdered in December of 1980, and this song reached #1 previous to falling to #2 here. So this was a #1 song for John, posthumously, which is, kind of rare on the charts. You don't see a lot of songs go to #1 after an artist has passed. It has happened. Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding, for example, is one that did. Jim Croce had a song go to #1, Time in a Bottle, I believe, after he passed away in a plane crash. But yeah, so #2, this song was written by John, entirely by John. So #2 song, Just Like Starting Over by John Lennon. And the #1 song for January 31st, 1981, Blondie, The Tide is High. Wow, where do I begin about The Tide is High? Fun fact, I have a really, really powerful memory of this song because on a winter day in January of 1981, my sister, and I only have one sibling, and I still get along with her wonderfully. My sister and I actually walked down a wintry highway 3 miles to J.C. Penney's, who at that time sold vinyl records and cassettes and like 45 singles. And she bought this album that this song was from, Auto American by Blondie. And I actually bought the album The River by Bruce Springsteen. And then we walked back home with our albums. We were just kind of bored, and I don't know, my folks didn't want to, drive us, or maybe we just thought, we'll just walk, Must not have been that cold, but I have a good memory. I always think of that when I hear this song, but I actually really, really enjoy this song. Interestingly enough, this song was written by a gentleman named John Holt in 1967. 14 years previous to this, and was released by the Jamaican reggae group, the Paragons. So this song is actually a remake. I don't think many Americans knew this song was a remake. This is obviously pre-internet. So a lot of times, bands would have songs or solo artists, and they, nobody would really know who wrote it unless you had like Rolling Stone magazine or something. So I just found that kind of interesting that this song was a remake. I actually didn't know that until I researched it for this video. So there you have it. The #1 song for January 31st, 1981 is The Tide is High by Blondie. Interestingly enough, Blondie had 4 #1 hits. That's a lot. For example, Billy Joel had 3 #1 hits. You know, Prince had 5. So you wouldn't think Blondie had 4 #1s, but they did. They actually did. Heart of Glass, Rapture, The Tide is High, and Call Me, all within a 4-year period, 78 through 81. So there you have it, guys. There is the top 5 for January 31st, 1981. So I'm just going to recap these 5 briefly in order, just what they are, and then I'm going to rank them by how much I like them. So the number 5 song for January 31st, 1981 was Every Woman in the World by Air Supply. Number 4, I Love a Rainy Night, Eddie Rabbitt. Number 3, Celebration by Kool and the Gang. Number 2, Just Like Starting Over by John Lennon. And number 1, The Tide is High by Blondie. Great group of songs. By the way, next week's countdown, February 6th, 1982, has such a fun #1 song. Really interesting song. I'll just leave it at that for now. Okay, here is how I would rank these 5 songs. And this was tough for me because I enjoy all 5 of these. But for me, out of these 5, there is an obvious number 5, the one I like the least, and it is Every Woman in the World by Air Supply. I like Air Supply, I do. I think I like every one of their hits that they had better than this one. I can't explain it. It's just kind of it's kind of a mid-tempo song. It just doesn't connect with me as much as some of their other hits. I respect it. I like it, but I don't love it. So number 5 for me, my own personal preference, and just ironically, it actually ended up at number 5 in this countdown in the regular chart, would be Every Woman in the World by Air Supply. Number 4 for me would be Celebration by Kool and the Gang. And this song is a big jump for me over Every Woman in the World. I really like Celebration a lot. The only reason I have it at number 4 and not higher is just very simply, I like the other 3 better. I mean, I know that's obvious, but the other 3 for me are just kind of these special songs, either by the artist or, like I said, I have that, the story about walking, on a wintry day and my sister buying that album. But for The Tide is High. But yeah, so number 4, just for really no other reason other than I like the other 3 better, Celebration by Kool and the Gang, but I like the song a lot. My number 3 favorite song of these is Just Like Starting Over by John Lennon. When I first saw this list, I thought maybe this song would be number 1 for me. But I listened to all these songs 3 times just to make sure, how I'm feeling about it is not just an initial response, but I really listened closely. And I love John Lennon's solo, but I'm a huge Beatles fan. And I think I like Beatles music more than I like the solo work from the 4 Beatles, although they all had great songs solo and great albums. But for me, I just like the other 2 songs better. I love this song, but I like the other 2 just, better than this. So number 3, Just Like Starting Over by John Lennon. My number 2 is The Tide is High by Blondie. I thought maybe this could get to number 1, but the number 1 song, for me, just out of these 5, number 1, and, by process of elimination, you know what it is by now. I really like The Tide is High, though. It has a reggae feel to it. Obviously, it was written for a reggae band at the time, the Paragons, in 1967. So, it has that reggae feel, and Blondie was kind of a new wave, disco a little bit, disco new wave, and then when disco died off, just strictly new wave. And by the time this album came out, disco's popularity had already kind of waned. So this was kind of a new step for Blondie, and it was kind of a surprise hit. I don't think a lot of people thought this song would go to number 1, but it did, and it still gets played on the radio all the time. I think I might like their other hit from this album, Rapture, a little bit better, but I really love this song. So number 2, The Tide is High by Blondie for my own personal preference. And number 1, I love A Rainy Night by Eddie Rabbitt. This song to me is one of the best driving songs of all time, any genre. And actually his previous hit, Driving My Life Away, might even be better. Shockingly, that song only made it to number 3 on the Billboard charts, although it was a number 1 country song. As well as I Love a Rainy Night was, pretty obviously also a number 1 country song on the country, singles charts. So, but I just find this song just so immensely listenable. It really holds up over time. I love it. I love it. I love it. So there you have it. I Love a Rainy Night by Eddie Rabbitt is my favorite of these 5. Guys, that's it for today. Next week, and I'm going to do one video. I'm going to do a video like this every single week. And I know it's not for everybody and not everyone, likes these kind of videos, but it's just fun for me. And I like to branch out a little bit. So thank you for watching so much. I appreciate it. So next week's countdown will be February 6th, 1982. And it has a very, very interesting song at number 1 that I can't wait to talk about. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, hit the bell for notification. Until next time, guys, keep shining, keep smiling, keep shopping.